Welcome to Share Views, which is with Mark Child, who's CEO at Condor Gold. How are you today, Mark?
Well, thank you. Just come in from Canada.
Right. Did you fly directly from there? You have to sort of take a different port of calls coming over?
No, direct from Toronto.
Beautiful. Right. The gold has been in focus, I suppose, in the recent past, just in the wake of Trump, the surprise of Trump being elected, and it soared $50 on the night, but then fell nearly $200 from that peak. Seems to be bouncing now. I mean, do you think that the market's finally appreciating Trump, and also that it probably needs to have a little bit of gold hidden away just in case he presses the wrong nuclear button?
Yes, I think the Trump honeymoon's over from a gold perspective. So it dropped off $200 after he was elected, as you indicated. That's now recovering. So I think we can expect gold to go back above 1,300 quite quickly. As indicated, a lot of his policies are uncertain. We'll have a weaker dollar. 3 members of the administration have indicated a weaker dollar, which is good for gold. Inflation's hedging up, as we're seeing. There's uncertainty with the finances and the banks in Italy and elsewhere, and the Chinese yuan continues to devalue. So I think it's a good backdrop for gold.
I mean, the other thing is that it's almost like as soon as it became 2016, January last year, mining stocks just totally turned back up again after 5 years in the wilderness.
Yes.
Has there been enough time now to suggest it's not just a blip?
Yes, I think we're in a long-term secular bull market. We should just bear in mind. I think gold can run in 15-year cycles. So we went up for about 8-9 years. We came down for 4 years, as you indicated. Yeah. We formed a bottom, and we're on the way back up.
Right, and your stock, I think, January last year, it was riding at around 20 pence, went out 65 pence or so. Is there any way of valuing your company just on a sort of a back of an envelope way?
Well, we should just put the 20p in context. It was off 90% down to 20p at the bottom of a 5-year bear market. So in terms of valuing the company, we're about $20 a resource ounce in the ground, compared with our peer group in Canada, which is about 4 times that. Our price to book's about 0.25, and in Canada they're about 0.9. So we're about a quarter of the valuation of the Canadian peer group, and there's a dozen companies with 2 million ounces plus in Canada, and there's only one in London, which is us. So there's no real peer group comparison in London.
But contrary to popular opinion, there is a proper way of valuing mining stocks. It's not just sentiment driven, let's say.
That's right. I think one has to bear in mind that the producers are valued differently. They're going to be valued on EBITDA multiples, sustainable cash flow, low all-in cash costs, and future production growth. The explorers are valued differently. You're valued on an NPV basis. So our NPV is 195 million US over 4 different production scenarios. Our market cap's 45. So NPV, like any company, can be valued on NPV. And then the ounces in the ground is the other way.
Right. Just want to go through your portfolio and just recent events, because that's probably enough of the education on the mining sector. Cacao, can you tell us about that? You had positive drilling results there.
Yes, Cacao is, we have the India project in Nicaragua. Cacao has a really small resource of about 58,000 ounces of gold, but our resource on the project is 2.3 million, so it represents 2% of our resource. Part of our strategy is to get a mine permitted and also to add another 1 to 2 million ounces. So of the resource of 2.3 million, 1.5 is in the main vein set we're getting permitted, and I'll come on to that later maybe. And there's another 1 million ounces spread across 6 separate resources, one of which is Cacao. At the moment we get no value for Cacao because it's tiny, it's uneconomic at 58,000 ounces. But the question is, can that be another 250,000 ounces or 500,000 ounces and eventually come into a mine plan of a future processing plant? And the answer to that we think is yes. So the drill results you allude to show a very wide dilational opening. It's about 5 kilometers away from the site of the processing plant, and it validates our strategy of proving the upside and adding another 1 to 2 million ounces. So it's a really good intercepts, good broad zones of intercepts, and good grade at Cacao.
Right, I want to talk about MENA, India, potential there, progress there, and any potential partners What's the situation?
We put a permit in, an application environmental permit, which is the master permit in Nicaragua. That's where Minalanja is. I've just had 2.5 weeks there. And that base case is for a single open pit of 955,000 ounces of contained gold within pit shells. That can produce 100,000 ounces of gold a year. And the upfront capital cost, that's $120 million. We've passed all the technical reviews from hydrology to metallurgy to tailings to waste to mine schedules and so forth. There are 16 studies we've passed, which is the really good news. We had presidential elections last year, and ahead of that, the permitting was effectively sort of went quiet. We weren't going to get permitted a new mine and run up to an election. Since then, I've met 3 government ministers on 3 separate occasions. So the government's formed, the presidency's formed a committee to get us permitted. So I'm optimistic on permitting, but it's taking time. It's taking longer than I anticipated, which is frustrating. But this is a mining-friendly country, with gold being the 3rd biggest export. So they're pro-mining. And a signal of that is that there are 3 people from the Nicaraguan government coming up to PDAC next month in Canada, including the minister. So we're on track for permits.
Right. I just want to touch on the settlement of the NSR dispute. That seemed to cast a bit of a cloud over your company. Is that out of the way now?
Yes, it did do. We were sued by B2 Gold and Royal Gold, 2 $3 billion companies, Canadian dollar companies, in US and Canada respectively. And that litigation went on for 4 years, and during that time they basically really put the thumb screws on us in an unpleasant way. That litigation has been resolved, and we have a settlement agreement. The litigation in Canada and in Nicaragua has been formally withdrawn in December last year, and actually last month in January. So that's positive. It means that if anybody looks to funding the project, or any JV we may do, or to progress the project through to cash flow and production, people don't have to worry about litigation and uncertainty on concessions, and so I'm delighted that's settled. It's important.
It sounds to me that with what you've told me, you need not only to be a mining expert in your job, but you also need to be a bit of a diplomat and a lawyer as well.
I think 20 years in finance, in equities and corporate finance, and then 4 years in the British Army and the Gurkhas before that, has provided me with an ideal skill set going into this. And I've now been Condor for 10 years. It's a long road, and that's why 1 in 1,000 resources actually make it into a producing mine. And we're in the final 10% of that at the moment. You know, it's been a great journey. It's been interesting, but there are masses of challenges, as you indicate. I mean,
but isn't that? I mean, maybe the mining sector as a whole. I mean, companies tend to fail not because of finding or not finding things in the ground, but just actually the lack of substance of the management themselves, or the lack of experience.
I think I agree totally. I think one of the things is sitting on the board of 7 companies before joining Condor, and taking my chartered director's exams and having a diploma in company strategy at the IOD. It means you analyse an awful lot of companies and learn from mistakes. So the other part, which you have to be a mini investment bank yourself at a small company. And we've raised $35 million in the last 5 years. The market cap is $45 million. So you've got to go and convince people. And we have the World Bank as a shareholder, the IFC. We have Ross Beatty in for 7%. We have Jim Mellon in for 7%. There's 2 billionaires in the World Bank. And they all send people to site. So it's a big validation of the geology, but also, I think, of the management, that we're going to get this right.
Mark Childs, CEO of Condor Gold, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's Share Views.